JD here, and as you can see, we are back with some league racing action, this time for the penultimate round of the GASR series. We arrive at Abu Dhabi, and really the only goal for this race is to secure P2 in the championship against F1 Alman, because Carl_24 has already won the championship. He won it, I think he won it at Las Vegas, because me and Alman had a bit of a collision on the last lap. So he's been Mr. Consistent. Learned a lot of things this season, in this season of league racing, which I'll definitely be taking into next. And I think I applied really well coming into this race, as you can see by the title of this video. So we just skip straight to the Q3. Managed to get through into that pretty comfortably. My banker was actually really good. It was a 22.1, which I was pretty happy with, because this setup I'm running here, if you are a member of my Discord, so if you click the join button next to subscribe and then join the Discord, I've already uploaded the setup. This is purely focused on straight line speed, because the format of this race is that you have to do a mandatory 2-stop. So in a normal 50%, you could easily just do a 1-stop pretty comfortably. But in this league, the reason why I really like this league as well is they do different formats, and for this race you have to pit twice. So with that in mind, I wanted a car that was very fast in a straight line. Since you're changing tyres more often, you're going to have a lot more grip. Downforce isn't quite as important. In qualifying, I definitely suffered, because Carl and some guys ahead of me, I think I was losing 4 to 5 tenths just in the last sector alone. And when you have DRS in qualifying, even with a higher downforce setup, you can get away with it. But in the race, it really pays dividends. If you can use a lower downforce setup in the race and you can put yourself really at the right place, right time, then it could pay off very well. And I think I'm someone who is just much suited to the lower downforce, being smooth. I can't really make the higher downforce work that well, because you really have to maximize it as much as possible. But as we come across the line, overall, not a terrible lap, not too bad. We lost a bit of time in the first half of the lap, but come back to do a 22.1. So that was enough for P5 on the grid. And strategy going into this, I was thinking about going on hards, because then you could do a hard, medium, medium, and mediums are very fast. But I thought if it was an early safety car, then it could be a bit of a risk. So I decided to go on the mediums, because I think the biggest thing I've learned from this season is I just need to put myself in the fight. If I'm in the fight, don't overcut, don't lose track position. If I could just be where I need to be, then I have a chance of winning the race. So I decided to start on the mediums here, just so I'm going to have a good first stint. So as the 5 lights go out now, trying to get a good start. You can see Alman qualified P3, and I think everyone ahead of me apart from Leno is on the medium tyre. So just navigating this turn 1, make sure we're not losing any positions. And as you can see by the title of this video, I think this is probably the most intelligent I've actually driven throughout this whole season. I think there's a couple of other races where I did drive fairly intelligently, but in this race, I think I really knew when to pick my battles, knowing where I need to be, not overcutting myself, and just put myself in the right time, right place, because I know my race pace is good, and I know the setup I'm running here is an absolute bullet in a straight line. I was pretty confident I was the fastest guy in the straight line. We're running very low downforce. You can see navigating Alman and Leno, using the advantage of these medium tyres, trying to get a bit of the slipstream to Sauber, because I want to try and obviously get as many points as possible. And I think you saw the start of this video, I think I was like 32, 33 points ahead of Alman, so all I need to do is, if I could just finish ahead of him, then I've secured P2 heading into the final round at Bahrain. But as we skip on to lap 2, you can see the guys ahead of me, they're on the hard tyres, so my medium tyres are pretty good, but the hard tyres actually become quick very, very quickly. The mediums are very, very fast, but they do wear and they do lose their performance actually pretty quickly as well. So not only the hards are much more durable, but I just think they are probably the more consistent tyres. So if I can be up the front in this first stint and then pit for the hards and go as long as possible, and then have even fresher mediums for the end, I think that is where the strategies really go work for me. You can see Carl trying to go down the inside here, give him the room, and not really fighting this too hard at this stage, because I don't really need to. I know I'm not going to break out the DRS here. All I need to do is just put myself at the front And I was very conscious that I didn't want to be undercutted, because I think I've allowed myself to be undercutted quite a few times in previous races, and that has actually cost me arguably the win in some of those races as well. So I know all I need to do, I don't need fresher tyres and so on, I just need to be within that DRS train, put myself in a good position, because I know in a race, that's where kind of my strongest suit actually is. And with this setup here being very fast in a straight line, you can see we're not even using the ERS, and look how fast we are on the straight line. We are an absolute bullet, and it's not just a straight line speed. Saving the battery around here is actually quite a big problem. I was watching Carl was on board and some other drivers on board. They were really struggling to save battery. As we skip on to lap 7 now, we can see we're still leading this race. Schumacher doesn't overtake me here because he wants to get the DRS for the exit of this chicane. And you can see here, even with the DRS, it doesn't make it super easy for him to overtake me. So I'm not even using the battery, and he's only just alongside me just before we get to end of the straight. So that again gave me a lot of confidence and how much straight line speed I had, which will be very, very important coming towards the end of the race. But coming towards the end of lap 7, like I said, I didn't want to be undercutted at all. The hard tyres, those guys naturally probably want to go a little bit longer, but you can see Carl, who's also on the hards, has actually followed me in. So I decided to go on the hard tyre now instead of a medium, because again, I know after 2 or 3 laps, the hards actually become really consistent. So if I can just hang on here, as Carl was behind me on the mediums, which is absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to really let him drag me along. And again, that's my strength. My strength isn't breaking someone's DRS and just being the outright fastest driver. Throughout my whole league racing career, I've very rarely been just the outright fastest driver on track in race pace in qualifying. I've normally just been the 2nd or 3rd fastest, but the most consistent, and just knowing when to be disciplined, knowing where to be committed, knowing when to push, and yeah, just trying to be smart with the driving rather than just being recklessly fast all the time. So we're not going to fight this at all. We're going to let Carl have this position because his mediums will be quicker for the next 2 to 3 laps. But then after that, they will start to cross over, and then towards the end of the stint, I should be the fastest car on track. And you can see next lap here as well, Carl has actually started to overtake some people. So I think some of the guys up ahead of us did actually pit quite early, as we almost lose the car going to there. So that could have been pretty catastrophic for a race, but managing just to catch it. Alwyn did go for an extra lap, so he has a couple of lap fresher tyres than us, and this is actually quite crucial. I actually need to overtake one of these cars here, because you see Carl has overtaken, there's about 3 cars between us. Ickle pitted, I think, a lap before us, so got to make sure I don't lose him, because he's going to be my main threat in this race, I would say. And we managed to navigate that quite nicely, as we're behind Alwyn's teammate in the other Red Bull. Need to dispatch of him quite quickly, but you can see Alwyn's behind, and right here his tyres are actually quite fresh. So again, I'm not really going to fight this at all. There's really no point, because a lap or 2 later I will be able to just be faster than him on these tyres. So I'm just going to use him to my advantage, and then towards the end of the stint, that's where he's going to be struggling the most, and then he'll have to either undercut or maybe even overcut a little bit as he gets past his teammate here. So I'm going to try and follow Alwyn through, so sticking my nose down the inside. A little bit of a half-hearted move, but again, you're going to see my straight line speed, not even using the battery, and you just see our straight line speed was just superior to everyone else. As we go into here, make sure we have a committed move, so fully alongside, get that move done, and this is really exactly where I want to be, because at this stage of the race, this is where the tyres will start to come to me much, much more, and I don't need to risk anything right now. I haven't got any track invalidations. As you can see, Ickle pits really early, so he pits on lap 12 here, and that is very, very early. And yeah, so we're just going to continue even more. So the undercut is pretty big around here, but the freshness of tyres is probably even bigger effect. So we're going to go to the inside of Carl coming towards the end of lap 16. Now we're into net P2. You can see Schumacher has a big lead, but I can tell you he hasn't actually pitted yet. So you'll see towards the end of this video, I think there were a few drivers who weren't aware of the format, although it was mentioned quite a lot within the Discord, but you can see we're making a move in Alwyn, and this is absolutely perfect. So my tyres are going to be in better condition than theirs at the moment. As you come towards the end of lap 19, I know the mediums are good for 10 laps, pretty good for 10 laps. So again, I don't want to be undercutted, so I'm just going to make sure I have the track position, force one of these guys to pit. Alwyn decides to continue. Carl follows me in again, and Alwyn, because he pitted a couple laps after us in the stint before, I think he felt obligated to try and maximise that by going even further into the race. But you'll see that's actually a big error in his part, something I've done in many races this season. Although the overcut is very tempting having the fresher tyres, losing track position and you're not in the DRS train on this game really does punish you. As you can see, Carl coming up behind me, we are both on medium tyres now, so we're on a complete equal strategy, both on fresh mediums, and we're going to get a very big undercut on F1 Alwyn, and we managed to actually come out ahead of Stefan Afanich, sorry if I can pronounce that correctly, Alwyn's teammate and the guy behind as well. So we're in a net P3 here in this race. You can see Ickle, who pitted on lap 12, we've already caught up to him, so he pitted early to try and go on the hards towards the end. And yeah, although they're a consistent tyre, because the delta between the tyres is so big right now, he pitted another 5 to 6 laps later than him, and we're on a much faster compound. The difference between the tyres is just too much at this stage of the race. So he's playing a little bit of DRS chicken with Carl here, who goes around the outside, so we're going to have to try and follow him, which again, we cannot afford to lose the DRS to Carl. If we lose the DRS to Carl, with the downforce he's carrying, if we lost the DRS in the first sector, he could probably actually break out of our DRS. So we just got to make sure we stay with him, and it's full focus towards the end of the race. And you're probably wondering why Alwyn is, but Alwyn, because he pitted about 2-3 laps later, he's that car at the back of the train on the straight, that dark blue circle, that's him. Look how much of an undercut we've had on him, and because he's not in the DRS train, me and Carl working together, you can just see how powerful that is. And again, just demonstrating the straight line speed here. So Carl lets me go, we're just working together really well. Shoot back up ahead has only pitted once during this race, which I was very aware of, so I knew this was actually the fight for the win between myself and Carl. But Carl was very fast in the corners on the straight, so I was incredibly quick. So all I was concerned about was being behind him going into the last lap of the race, and I felt like I would have a very good opportunity to win this race. And I know it sounds strange, but as I'm behind Carl here, I don't want to give him the impression that I can actually stick to his back end very easily. I want to kind of make him think that it's a bit of a struggle for me to get close. I wasn't pushing with the ERS at all. You can see we've got practically 100% of this battery for the last lap of the race. So coming into the last lap of the race now, absolutely crucial. I knew where I wanted to overtake him. I wanted to overtake him going into the second DRS zone, and then going to the last sector, it'd be very hard for him to overtake me. So going through this section, I want to be close, but I don't want to be too close where I'm kind of forced to overtake him down this next straight. So this is absolutely perfect. But as we go into here, we actually get caught on the curb, so we make a massive mistake here, which makes me go in deep. If you look at the delta, we're 8 tenths behind. But this is where I think Carl kind of underestimates my speed. You can see we're so far behind, not using any battery, and saving all this battery for a straight. And what we do is we do a little dummy here. That puts him off guard. That puts him in really deep. And that gets me the perfect line, the perfect exit coming off this chicane. And now we're going to dump all of our ES going down the straight. And again, he's using all of his battery. But look at the difference in the straight line speed. There is so much of a difference. And we're already completely ahead of him. We close off the inside. And going through this section, he is going to be very quick. But unless we make a massive mistake, there is going to be no way through. We actually have more battery than what he does right now. So all we got to do is just keep it on track. Again, Schumacher ahead has only pitted once, so he's going to be disqualified from this race. And we've got to make sure we get a really good exit using the ERS again. He is actually pretty close here, so we're going to kind of defend this inside. Just cover off again. Going across the line. We managed to take the win at Abu Dhabi. And that was a perfectly executed race. And I think again shows you do not have to be the fastest driver to win the race. Just being the most strategic or no, the smartest driver, you could respectfully say. Put yourself in the right place, right time, know when to attack, know when to hold back, and I think we just executed that absolutely perfectly. But thank you so much for watching. If you like access to this setup and all my setups for league racing, make sure you hit that join button, become a YouTube member. That's where you can talk to me directly one-to-one. You also get a discount on coaching at www.coachlimitless.com, which I have actually opened up all my slots for 2025 now. So if you head over to my website, you can book a session with me. I really hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be catching you very, very soon. Peace.